Good morning, Savannah, and welcome to a special edition of Rebel TV. I'm Mr. Rubio. Many of us have been seeing the violence in social media or on TV about what's going on in the Middle East. And you may have lots of questions or feelings or opinions about what is happening. And at Savannah, our goal is to develop empowered students, engaged in academic excellence, and are called to develop purposeful lives. So to that end, I've invited two of our amazing teachers to have a conversation with me about what we think and how do we really talk about this issue. So thank you, Mr. Torres, Ms. Calles, thanks so much for being here today. So in brief, so a student might not really be knowing what's going on in the Middle East. They've heard a couple things here and there. In a brief summary, like what do you understand to be going on right now in the Middle East?
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, basically an organization called Hamas unleashed an attack against Israel, and as a result there has been ensuing violence that has been perpetuated, and there has been ongoing violence happening from both sides on the issue. So yeah, that's as far as I can go.
Okay.
About.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's been an ongoing issue for many years, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you see these things, especially in current events, how do you think about when it comes to bringing this into the classroom? What do you think about, Ms. Calles?
As history teachers, I think it's really a big responsibility for us to have a space in our classrooms to be able to talk about these issues. So when something like this does come up, first of all, I try to be prepared to talk about the issue and see how we could connect it to the content that we're teaching, and then come into the class with offer an opportunity for the students to share any concerns that they have, really ask them any questions that they have, because I think there's probably a lot of misconceptions that they're probably hearing from social media and from other news sources or from people. And so just having an opportunity to say, okay, we're going to come into class and I'm going to open it up to see if we could just share out our concerns, what are some questions that we have, and just offering that space for them, and then to dig a little deeper as well about the issue so that students can understand it.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Torres? What do you think about how do you bring this into the classroom, this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, it's been incredibly fascinating to be a teacher this day and age, right? And just to be alive in this day and age. It seems like every week, every month, there's some new unprecedented event that is going on. So I think it's important for us here at Savannah and in our department specifically that we lean into these kinds of events and actually, like Ms. Calles had mentioned, right? We actually talk about the things that are going on, and that it's important for us as teachers to be informed, because our students do have questions and our students are constantly plugged into this information. Always, right? They have a little device in their pockets that allows them to be connected to an endless source of information. So I think it's in our best interest and the community's best interest that we as teachers come with information and are able to, dispel any untruths that we possibly can.
Yeah. So you touch on something with the social media, that they're getting a lot of information. And some of that can be good, that could be helpful, but there's a lot that might not be. So how do you prepare students to tread through that, or to be cautious at least when they're on social media?
I think by asking students, okay, what do you already know about? What have you heard? And having that start off the conversation. And then a lot of times it's rumors, where it's very biased information, it's one-sided. When you look at a social media post or a quick video, you don't really know the whole story of what's going on. So just to let them know, just because you see this being posted on, on a TikTok or on Instagram, or you really need to know where your sources are coming from. Sometimes there's like altered videos that are going around, and you can't really assume that what you're seeing is true. So just really using that as a learning moment to talk about how we have to look at this issue in different sources. Let's look at reliable sources. Let's look at bias. What did the person who posted it, what did they believe? And where can we get information to really look at both sides of the issue and really come up with an educated decision, and just to have knowledge of it, because social media by itself, you cannot rely on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of what Ms. Kaya said. I think for the most part, you know, as somebody who got a degree in history, you know, my professors constantly stressed, you know, this idea of we need to be able to collect sources from everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to come to a conclusion and to be able to come to this idea of some semblance of truth, right? Because one person's truth is another person's propaganda, right? And I think it's important that we're able to allow our students to see what does propaganda look like, right? And what does disinformation look like? Because if we lean away from it, I think we're doing our students a massive disservice, right? When they need to be able to see what propaganda looks like and what these things look like so that they can spot it, right? So I think, you know, there are plenty of units in history and in government where we can, you know, bring these things to light, right? Mm-hmm. And to be able to connect what happened in the past to what's happening now. So yeah, I think just being able to collect all these sources, like Ms. Kaya said, from both sides, so like that our students could come to an educated understanding of what is happening.
It's interesting because I think that end goal of understanding, right? The end goal for propaganda is just a feeling. It's getting someone riled up and getting them very passionate, which is nothing wrong, but is that really positive? Or is that building people up? Is that really tearing people down? And then the understanding in itself is helpful, but only to a certain extent. So when you're thinking about a student's understanding, like what comes after that understanding? What for you as a teacher, like students should understand, but what comes after understanding for your students?
Well, I think first of all, yes, we have to build that understanding in them, you know, especially with an issue like the Middle East. It is such a complex issue with such a long history. And so in order to even have this discussion with students, they need to understand that first. So as a history teacher, that would be what I would want to do, is be able to really try to give them that background, that history, and then dive into those different sources so that students can get that understanding. Once they have that understanding, I mean, I would like to have a space where kids could discuss any questions, any concerns, help each other understand it. And so having a discussion such as like a Socratic seminar in my class, I think at the end, although it's a very complex issue, I think that would definitely help kids maybe have a forum where they could, in a respectful way, talk about it. And I would definitely mention that it's not a debate, but it's more of like just collectively trying to help each other understand, and hopefully just walking away knowing more than what they came out of, and like knowing like those things that I saw on social media, maybe that dispel some of those preconceived ideas that they had. And I think that would be something I would like to see.
So it's not just the understanding for itself, it's we're going to use that to build skills.
Yeah.
You're going to build skills to speak to other people.
Absolutely.
And to have a conversation and know how to have a good conversation, even if you might not agree.
Exactly.
Right? That's a huge skill for our students that many adults, unfortunately, don't even master yet, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it ties perfectly into that C that, you know, is constantly, you know, maybe not necessarily neglected on purpose, but, you know, is, you know, our students maybe don't necessarily realize that they're using on a day-to-day basis, which is that character and compassion, right? To be able to have this understanding, right, that we're talking about, like, okay, well, what has happened? Okay, now that I get that, how am I able to have a conversation with somebody that completely disagrees with me, right? Or have a conversation with somebody that maybe agrees with me, but in a different context, right? So yeah, I think being able to build that skill, the communication skill, the collaboration skill, but also the character and compassion to be able to come away from a conversation and be like, you know, I still disagree with that person, but, you know, I still respect them and they're still somebody that's part of my community and I still care about them.
Yeah, that sounds like the best classroom experience. Yeah. Right? So what else would you see in your perfect world, like the perfect classroom experience for a student? It includes that character and compassion. What else do you see? What else would you imagine and dream about? Like, oh, this would be the best way for my classroom to experience this subject.
So I think the best way that we can do this, you know, and Ms. Kais and I had a conversation about this prior to this conversation, right? But I think the best way that we can do that is by spending several weeks on this topic, right? I don't think that this can be something that can be explored in just a single day, right? I think that there is so much nuance, there is so much complexity to this issue. You know, going back to, okay, well, you know, let's talk about the fall of the Ottoman Empire. And how does, you know, the partition of the Ottoman Empire from the British and French empires, how does that connect to, you know, this modern conflict, right? So I think being able to have maybe some type of civic PTA, right, in our history department would be the best way to do this, the best way to explore this. Yeah. Because if we do not give this the true like runway that it deserves, I think we're doing our students a disservice if we only explore it in, you know, oh, here's an article, read it, right? I think it's going to take several weeks and a lot of digging into this subject that is super complex, super divisive, and super nuanced for our students to be able to truly wrestle with it, and for us to be able to feel proud of something that they did.
Right. So being able to just like shift the whole boat and to just really dig in, that's like the optimal classroom. Cool. Yeah. What would you say, Ms. Calles?
I agree. I think just being able to like give the kids that knowledge base that they need, but then also to help them feel empowered with the information that they have, right? And so when we're talking about like in our history classes, we do our civic learning PTAs. That's what we're trying to do with them. We're trying for them to use that information and then do something good with it, whether it's like, you know, spreading awareness on it, trying to educate the public about it, just being able to like take action in an informed way. And it could be for this topic, but also just for any topic in general, like that's going on. You know, if we see issues going on in our community, you know, if we see issues going on in our school, for students to feel empowered that they can learn about it, they can discuss it, and then try to take action would be like the optimal thing for us, you know, in our civic education in our classrooms.
Right. And it's almost like we can't really, in a small way, like we can't really change what's happening right now in Gaza. That's difficult. That's a big deal. There's a lot of stuff going on there with military stuff. But for a student in Anaheim who attends Savanna, like how can they feel, like you're saying, empowered? Like what do you think is going to be the key to helping them feel empowered as they're understanding the subject, to make them feel like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to change all of that over there, but here's what I can influence for myself and what I can engage in here at home?
I would tell them that there is a lot of things that are in our control, you know, here in our community and at our school. And I think we're already doing a lot of really great things at our school. You know, we have RSVP, which is helping kids voice their concerns about issues going on here. We in our social science classrooms are doing civic learning, you know, PTAs, where students are getting to look at these issues and dig into them a little deeper, and then to spread the word in whatever way that they wish to do, and to take informed action on it. So I would want them to feel that, you know, that their voice matters, and that they can create change with issues that they're passionate about, and to try to encourage that and cultivate that in our classrooms.
Any thoughts, Mr. Torres?
Yeah, absolutely. I think making our students aware of various organizations that are doing good work, that are providing humanitarian aid and water and food and resources for people that are affected by this conflict. And there's organizations within our community that exist, right? We have a large Middle Eastern population within our school community and within our community. Down the street in Brookers, Little Arabia is one of the first Middle Eastern recognized diasporas in the country. And I think we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't recognize that, right? And recognize that, you know, there's people in our community that probably have family members that are being impacted by this, you know, conflict. So just letting them know that, hey, you can donate, you can, you know, raise awareness, you can do something that'll make you feel like you have done something, as opposed to just being aware, right? It's one thing to be aware, but okay, what do we do with this awareness now? And I think making them aware of these organizations potentially could give them that power.
Let's say it's May. We fast forward to May, right? We don't know what's going to be happening in the Middle East by then, but we can project a little bit what we'd want to see our students doing. What would be the best outcome for your students come May in their understanding and their awareness of this situation in the Middle East?
I would say that, again, just trying to encourage students to kind of keep up with the news, to find out what's going on, to have some empathy for those that are going through it, and then just to be able to use those skills for good, you know, to be able to try to dispel those rumors, to be able to educate others, like Mr. Torres said, you know, try to make a positive change in the community, to be curious, to ask questions. Just seeing students being civically engaged and trying to make that difference as a teacher is great to see. To see that what we talked about is something that they're thinking about, and that they're thinking about what can I do to make my community better, to help as best as they can. So that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, I think for me, what I would love for our students to be able to do would to be able to practice empathy, for the people that are impacted by this conflict, people in our community and people abroad, but also to express gratitude for the fact that we live in a community that cares about each other, a community that is there for each other no matter where you're from, what you look like, and who you are. I think that would make me feel really proud to know that our students recognize that and recognize how wonderful it is to live where we live.
Yeah, I agree. I think our students don't totally understand like how rare, if they were to look at any American high school, how rare it is to have this many countries and languages and cultures and religions represented in just one campus, that's actually a huge benefit for all of us. That it gives us a window into the world that some schools in other parts of Orange County might not even be able, and it's their loss, but it's like our benefit. So it's really, you take advantage of that benefit by having that empathy, showing that kindness, you know, even if you disagree, you're still, you know, supporting each other, because at the end of the day, we're all Savannah family, right? So, cool. Thank you so much, Ms. Guys, Mr. Torres, for that conversation. I think that's awesome, and I'm hoping it's just gonna really continue other things, right? Well, that wraps us up, students, but we're really just starting. You're gonna start exploring and thinking and talking and asking a lot more questions, and that's a really good thing. But we wanna remember two very important things. Number one, question your sources and double check for accuracy. You want to read to understand, not to prove yourself right. And then secondly, we want to understand that every person is a human being. They're worthy of dignity and respect. When you speak or write or post online, please just double check and check yourself and see whether you're practicing that kind of kindness, all right? Good luck, Savannah. And if you ever have any questions about this or other topics, please see a trusted staff member, and we'll see you soon. Bye, Savannah.